Good morning, everyone. Hope that you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for clicking on the video and stopping by. Whether it's the first time you're clicking on this video and you're like, who's this guy? Well, my name's Justin, also JP, and we listen to music here. Obviously, that's why you're here. Or if it's your 1000th time here, welcome back. And everything in between, I appreciate you stopping on in, as today we dive into a full album listen of Moondog, and also self-titled album Moondog, released 1969. I was actually gifted the album quite a bit ago as well, and I've always had it on my list of albums to get to, and along with 200 and something odd other albums, we're working our way towards it. The album itself had also been suggested, and the artist, Moondog, by the following at least: Ulrich, David Copson, Rita Griffin, TXO, Matt Stagger, and Lord Elpis. Thank you guys so much. Actually, what kind of gave me the impetus also to listen to this album was one of the tracks off of here had been sponsored by Herb. Herb, thank you so much for the recommendation and for the supports. And since it was already on my list of like an album to get to, I figured, you know what? Let's just partake in the whole enchilada, as they say. Salsa, guacamole, sour cream, and all. So I hope that you guys are here for it. Hope that you're looking forward to it, looking into it. Now, when I had first got the album, looking at the album cover, I couldn't help but think, okay, this is going to be something Viking music. This is going to be something in that perhaps regard. But a lot of you in the comments had said that it's actually something more akin to jazz, which is interesting because I'm looking at the track list and it's very classical in its titles, at least what it makes me think of. So very curious to see how this album goes down based off of what you've said, based off the track listing, based off of the cover. Very curious to see how this one stacks up. So I once again really appreciate you guys for being here and watching. And, you know, whether I say this, but I haven't said it in a long time. Oh my goodness, my phone is loud. Whether the views on my videos are 100, 200, 2,000, somewhere in between or outside of those, I'm just happy to be doing this and happy to be listening to music on, you know, with that I'm interested in, that you're interested in, without, for lack of a better word, having to worry about that kind of thing. You know, just here for to enjoy the music and do so. To plug this in, to transition, Buy Me a Coffee is there if you'd like to support the channel and you have a song request and you want to just jump the line, so to speak. That's the place to do it. Patreon for exclusive content. And if you don't mind just pressing that like button, it helps a great deal, or sharing the video. How long have I spoken already? Almost 3 minutes. We got to get into the album. Starting off with the first track, Theme. This Sip of Water, 3 minutes. Is to you. There's a deeper kind of rumbling sound.
Machines were mice and men were lions once upon a time, but now that it's the opposite, it's twice upon a time.
Let me let the next track go. Stamping Ground. I got it. I can hear the jazziness here rhythmically. Okay, I thought it best to let these two tracks to go together. This is a relatively short album, only about 30 minutes long as a whole. Okay, so these two tracks, what I'm kind of getting is honestly not too far removed from maybe a little bit of what I almost perhaps expected in a way looking at the album cover, because we have kind of like these little classical symphonic, there's an M word I'm trying to think of, minuets? Minutes? Like a small scene of something. What's the word I'm thinking of? Just like it's a small little sample of a bigger picture. Perhaps is what I'm trying to think of. Like, am I thinking of minuet? No, that's a type of dance. It seems like there's a word I want to use. But it's like, okay, this piece of music with Stamping Ground, for example, sounds like instead of being about 2 minutes long, it could have been a bigger piece, maybe 8 minutes or so. And we just took a small slice of that particular cake and we served it up. And it's good. It's a quick, like, almost a radio-friendly-esque kind of way of sampling this music that gets you into it, gets you into it and gets you wanting more. But then there's more somewhere else. But I like this. I like these two tracks a lot. So the first track, which is just appropriately themed, just sounds like a nice, steady growth of a theme as everything builds up very steadily. It's a nice way of kind of setting a particular scene for what we can hear in the album. And then when we moved into Stamping Ground, now when the drums come in and the way they're playing, that really does give me that kind of jazziness in the edge there. And some of the way that the instruments played there, calm but like very forward marching, I thought was very, very nice. There's a little bit of a vocal here, not singing, just a vocal. I don't know if it's a sample, someone just speaking. We'll kind of dive into that because we're going to have to dive into the this album as a whole a little bit. And for me to understand what or who Moondog is and exactly his, like, what's he doing in here, because I'm looking at the personnel and I don't see Moondog in here, so I'm going to have to figure that out. But regardless, it's a really cool... what was the word? It's cinematic and soundtrack-ish, but scaled down into kind of bite-sized pieces. This isn't the Snickers king-size bar. This is that snack-size bar that you hand out to kids at Halloween. Let's kind of dive into this a little bit, huh? So the spoken words, machines were mice and men were lions once upon a time. But now that it's the opposite, it's twice upon a time. Okay, so now machines were mice. Well, now mice were machines, I suppose, and men were lions. Well, now lions are men. It's the opposite of that. Okay, so let's look into Moondog before we go any further, because I want to understand in totality what this album and who Moondog is. So American composer Moondog. Okay. Louis Thomas Hardin, known professionally as Moondog, an American composer, musician, performer, music theoretician, poet, and inventor of musical instruments. Largely self-taught as a composer, his prolific work rightly drew inspiration from jazz, classical, Native American music, which he had become familiar with as a child, and Latin American music. His strongly rhythmic contrapuntal pieces and arrangements later influenced composers of minimal music, in particular Steve Reich and Philip Glass. Okay, interesting. Now let me come back to the album. It was made on the initiative of the producer James William Gracio, and recorded at Columbia's main studio, in which he conducted 50 musicians. It consists of compositions written by him in the 50s and 60s as he moved from jazz conventions into becoming a classical composer, resulting in a combination of classical influences and elements of what critics have described as minimalist music and third stream. The album features short symphonic-styled works, canons, chaconnes, and a couple of jazz-inspired tracks, one in memory of Charlie Parker. Conceived media exposure, peaked at number 6 on the Billboard chart for classical music. That's kind of cool. And I mean, look at the track listing, right? Like, nothing is long, like very long. Most of the tracks are around 2 to 3 minutes. So that absolutely makes for a good something to put onto the radio for that genre, you know? Moondog was regarded as an eccentric, known for standing at a street corner in New York dressed in a homemade Viking costume. And the album contributed significantly to his reputation as a serious composer. Okay, so because I don't know anything about Moondog, why did he do this? Louis Hardin, a blind composer and musician who was born in Kansas, son of a priest, he took the name Moondog in 1947. From the late 40s until 1974, wow, that's a long time, he was known as an eccentric figure in New York street life, standing in a street corner, selling his music and writings or performing his own music. Okay, so he's busking out there. He received some attention from journalists and musicians. In the 60s, he developed his image and worldview. He dressed in a homemade Viking-inspired costume, was a neo-pagan who believed in the Norse gods, and set up an altar at his country retreat in Candor. All right, he's just living the old ways. He moved away from the jazz idiom of his early works towards being a classical composer. He praised classicism and rejected the belief that there is such a thing as originality. Okay. Gracio had met Moondog a couple of years previously. They signed a contract for the albums. Okay. The terms included that the record company's executives were not allowed to hear the music ahead of recording. That's actually that's risky for them. But they had such a belief, right? They had a faith in him. Okay, I don't want to get too far into it just yet, but we can read about the tracks we listen to. He begins with theme, a cross between a combination of a chaconne. What is this? Is a type of musical composition often used as a vehicle for variation on a repeated short harmonic progression, often involving a fairly short repetitive bass line. Okay. I would need to hear an example. I know we listened to the track, but I would need to hear a specific individual example of it. I described this track as my theme, a sort of musical signature. In an earlier version, Moondog played all the instruments, whereas in this version, it was reworked into a maxisym. Maxisym was Moondog's own term for a composition for a full orchestra. Its opposite was minisym, written for a handful of musicians. Okay. And Stamping Ground was written in the 50s and not previously recorded, taking inspiration from Native American music. It is constructed with a canon melody line, a 4-note ground played on timpani, and a coda that ends in retardation. So yeah, it says Native American music. I kind of heard jazz in there. All right, let's not read any more about the other tracks. We haven't hit them yet. So Louis Hardin is his name. Okay, so I see him on bass in the personnel. Anywhere else? So he plays bass at one point, at least. And then I guess he's composing everything for everyone else to play. Gotcha. Okay. I just needed a little background before we go any further, just so we have something to mind. Let's move on to the next track, Symphonique number 3, Ode to Venus. Almost sounded like Over the Rainbow at first. Very romantic of a piece. Really does sound a little bit like Over the Rainbow in the beginning of those notes. That was lovely. So it's called Ode to Venus, obviously ode to love and goddess, and such. And I really love how romantic this piece sounds. And it does so in a very approachable way. This we're only 3 tracks in, but this could possibly be a very good introduction to someone into any sort of classical music. It's very what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's very bite sized. It's very I'm forgetting all the words I'm trying to use today. Like it's not like it's not so daunting of an album or pieces of music that are like 20 minutes, 30 minutes or longer. They're just bite-sized pieces that are easy for consumption, so to speak, and they don't require much, And so far, the pieces have been nice and easygoing. There hasn't been anything overly difficult, I think, for as a listener to dive into. It seems like a good entry level and entry point for the music and such. And here, like I said, the overlapping of the strings and how they all sweep in kind of like this dance with each other. It's like watching a ballroom, and all the dancers are just swaying each other's arms, each with their own little story. As a matter of fact, can I tell you? Watch this. And I think that the air is just filled with dancing here. I'm gonna do this. Let's do this. This is I'm trying to see if I can find like what it makes me think of. I need like a bunch of people just ballroom dancing together. I need like I'm thinking Victorian era or something. Nothing. You know what? I don't know what show this is or anything. I'm just choosing it because it looks like ballroom, and we're gonna come right around here.
You don't ask me that.
Turn this music off. I don't know what this is. Like, see, like this. Like, that's what I mean. That right there is what I'm hearing. Or seeing, rather. I'm trying to stop the music. Too many things happening right now. That's exactly what I'm seeing. Like, there's just a ballroom and everyone's swaying to the rhythm of the music. And as the flutes come in, it just sings even further. It's absolutely beautiful, the way that it all comes together in this particular piece. I really like that. And it comes to a nice head at the end there. I'm going to look at this for every track we'll listen to. It says Symphonique number 3 is another update of a composition featured on Moondog and His Friends. It is an enlarged version, 6 minutes long, of the second movement of that album's Suite number 2, which in its earlier version was 2.5 minutes long. It is a canon in 12 parts and an homage to Tchaikovsky's music as well. So, with that in mind, let's move on into the next track, which is going to be Symphonic number 6, Good for Goody. There's that jazz. There's that jazz. That's really cool. And it's catchy. I love how everything just builds on each other. I wish this was longer. I that's my favorite so far. I'm just really curious. Let's look at it first. I love that, and it's so jazzy. Once again, the snare. There's something kind of New Orleans about it, or like old Americana as well. Let's see. Side 1 ends with Symphonique number 6, a ground inspired by swing music. That was fantastic. The composition has much more melodic detail. It features a clarinet that uses high notes in the vein of Benny Goodman. Who's Benny Goodman? American jazz clarinetist and band leader known as the King of Swing. His orchestra did well commercially. So there you go. That's where that jazziness comes in, that swing in the music. And man, it plays so cool in this track. It just has this air of coolness. And this is actually a really cool track in the sense of, I think it combines really cool the jazzy rhythm and kind of the swing of everything, but bringing those symphonic elements to play alongside with it. Now, I know that we had seen, like in the previous information for this album, that some of the features here were also featured in another album, Moondog and His Friends. So is there a longer version of this particular track? Because it didn't say so in the info, but I would love to hear that if there's a longer version of this. I'm on Bandcamp. I guess there's some Moondog info here. I'm on Moondog and His Friends, but I don't see anything about this one. Man, I thought that was really fantastic, though. The music was just a delight to listen to, and I love how it constantly builds up and adds more instruments, and while more is added, that swing is never lost, no matter how far in it goes. And it's only a little over 2 minutes. I like that one a lot. Let's move into side 2, starting off with Minisim. So we're going to have a smaller amount of musicians. Minisim number 1.
The only one who knows this ounce of words is just a token is he who has a tongue to tell that must remain unspoken.
Okay. This is so cool. It sounds like something Mingus would do. I can kind of hear a little Native American sound in this, in the melodies. This has movements, I just realized. Okay, maybe that's my favorite track on the album. Oh, just back to back. I wasn't even looking, and I didn't see that this had 3 different movements to it. But when the music stopped at first, I was and totally changed. I was, something's happening here. We get two completely different movements in the first part, and then the final third brings them both together in a victorious, celebratory way. In the very beginning, I love the drums, the beat of it, the shaker. Like that to me is very jazzy. The vocal line, the melody of that is very jazzy to me. And there's a little bit of it where I can kind of see, if this track features it purposely, some of that Native American influence in some of the melodies as well. It's really cool how that's put together here. This one, like the first movement to me is like very jazz. Like this. And it brings in like almost a cinematic soundscape with the strings like right around it just to kind of give it a little bit of an elegance. But this one is very much rooted in the main melody and that rhythm that's taking place. Then the second movement goes just straight classical, romantic once again, with the way everything builds up so beautifully here. This just feels like a piece of classical music, you know? And I love how it, to me, it's like, it's waking up. There's something of this middle section, the second movement, it's waking up. And it's doing so in a very beautiful and kind of lighthearted way. Even as more strings come in and up here, it still retains that. And I love those sweeping movements of the strings. It's just enriching. Just a golden sunrise. And the transition, I'll have to find exactly when that happens. The transition between the second movement and the third is brilliant. It reminds me, not musically, but the feeling reminds me of when the drums come in Michael Field's Omadon, on Omadon Part 1, where the drums come in and it begins like the ending. Just a heart-pounding moment. It was really cool. Right around here. And that pause, that hesitance, does a lot. Because it's just the drums that starts it off. And the rhythm of that thing, the violin just cutting through the melody. Ba, 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 ba. Oh. This could be the favorite piece. As a matter of fact, while I'm here, I'm going to add this onto my my playlist for my classical playlist. Why not? Toss it in there. Let's look at some of the information on Minisim. Number 1. First performed in 1967, consists of 3 short movements in 4/4 time. The album notes describe the first movement as jovial, the second as lyrical, and the third as vivacious. The first and third feature a bassoon, and the second is played with the horn. So jovial is the first one. Okay, I can see that. Just happy, energetic, youthful. Second as lyrical. Yeah, I can see that in the way that the strings speak. And the third, vivacious is a perfect way to describe the liveliness of that track there. That was cool. I really like that one. Let's see what else the album has in store with us, or for us, with the next track, Lament 1, Bird's Lament. Some sax. Catchy saxophone. Oh, the way the sax played in there, the melody is so catchy. Once again, I'm going to use the J word, jazzy as well. But it's almost like trance-inducing. It almost plays like a charmer to us. And the groove behind it. The drums are played really, really nicely. I love the fast play on the snare back there. Drumming... Percussion, there's a lot of people on percussion in the album. Jack Jennings, Dave Carey, Elaine Jones, and Bob Rosengarten. So I couldn't say exactly who's performing on this one, but I love the way that they play the snare in that marching kind of beats, but there's something very like assertive about it. And then when the kick is thrown in right underneath just to give it that extra pounding is really, really beautiful. But the saxophone, that was really good as well. That's played by Wally Kane, handling the sax. And like this is just, it's a short piece. The shortest piece on the album, actually, matter of fact. But it's catchy. And it's a quick, catchy, charming piece of music, this one. Let's take a look at some of the info on here. Lament Bird's Lament is a, I know I'm saying this wrong, chaconne, where a saxophone accentuates the melody. Yes, it does. Very much accentuated. Along with Good for Goody, it represents Moondog's interest in jazz in the 50s. It was composed in 55 after the death of saxophonist Charlie Parker, who was nicknamed Bird, and who Moondog had known in the early 50s. The two had discussed music and the prospect of performing together. I like that. So this was a bit of an ode to Charlie Parker. Now, I wouldn't doubt it. Do you think that the notes that he played in this song, in Lament, do you think that it's like a musical cameo of something that Charlie Parker has played? It doesn't say anything here, but you know, I would think that that's a possibility. Like maybe that was something that Charlie Parker played in a particular song or piece that he had performed on. I don't know. The next track has kind of an interesting title, Witch of Endor. And it's the longest one here on the album, 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's go ahead and knock on the witch's door. See if there's some treats for us. like you had two melodies, different melodies at the same time. Now they coalesce. Oh, there's more movements. Great strings. Just very fast and good. The timpani and the strings were very foreboding. I love that overarching melody that comes in. It's very, very cinematic. Comes back even heavier. And that returns. What a great way of callbacks. That was well handled. So that very much appropriately felt like the epic of the album, and obviously it's the longest track. But like, even let me bring you guys up here real quick. Even when you're looking at the track listing, not only does it feature three movements: dance, trio, and dance. But in the second movement, it has sub movements: A, Adagio, the prophecy; B, Andante, the battle; and C, Agitado, Saul's death. So I like how it captures a story here really nicely. And because like I was seeing this as we were listening to the music, when it got into the middle section, the second movement, I like how you can hear the second movement, the same motifs return and expand upon as it worked through those subsections within the second movement, which was really cool. So like you heard the main melody of Adagio, the prophecy, right? And then eventually that same melody, here you go, it's about to change. Here you go. So this is the prophecy. And appropriately, those strings, they are playing fast and just quiet. Just like a barely a let me bring you guys something. Barely a vibration as they're playing there. But I love how tense and strong those are. They're played very close to the chest, and it just comes across as this echo of foreboding that I think is really nice. Also, I didn't mention it, but the first movement, that big melody, I really like the swing of that melody. Ba, 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 ba. Almost has a Western kind of sound to it, and its grandness. But getting back to the second movement, prophecy appropriately is foretelling of something or forewarning of something. And the strings there really nicely do that. They sound like something's floating in the air, something ominous, this prophecy hanging on us. And then the second sub-movement of trio is Andante, the battle. Appropriately, drums are now added in as it moves into that section, and the marching pattern comes forward. Right here. It's the trudging towards the battle, trudging towards war, one line of army towards the other. And once again, like that same kind of energy from prophecy is now just expanded upon. Those strings are gone, the fast ones, but the movement is still very much the same. And I think that's really cool. Actually, the strings are still there as they continue. Then the final part kind of just goes off. Agitado, Saul's death. It goes on that one. And I do like how those strings are actually featured throughout the whole, this whole movement, those fast strings underneath it. It's like the prophecy coming true, and that those words, that prophecy, is still echoing as it comes to truth, as it goes. I think that's actually kind of cool. And before that, actually, and I like how it passes through into this section. You get that shaker coming back through, main melody from dance coming back in. So it's a nice reprise going on here, and then it of course expands upon that. Witch of Endor is really, really fantastic. Can I tell you? Also very worthy, perhaps, in my opinion, of being added to my playlist. It's just a cool storyline to kind of go through. And I'm actually kind of curious. So we're going to look at the Wikipedia article here. But I'm curious if Witch of Endor is actually from something. The longest track on Moondog, Witch of Endor, which also is the album's most academic composition. It consists of 3 movements. The first is a canon in minor and 5/4 time inspired by Anatolian music that represents a witch's dance. The second, a trio representing the demise of the biblical king Saul. And the third repeats the first. It was composed around 65, and according to the liner notes, it was originally for a ballet intended for a dancer and choreographer, Martha Graham. It is uncertain if Graham ever was aware of its existence. Didn't quite get the memo on that one. However, I'm curious if Witch of Endor is like from something, you know? So let's do a quick Google on that. There you go, Witch of Endor. According to the Hebrew Bible, was consulted by Saul to summon the spirit of the prophet Samuel. Saul wished to receive advice on defeating the Philistines in battle after prior attempts to consult God through sacred lots and other means had failed. However, what was summoned, whether the actual ghost of Samuel or a spirit impersonating him, delivered a prophecy of doom against Saul and his army, who were defeated. Okay, so this is literally then, like literally, following the music. The prophecy, the battle, and Saul's death. So it literally follows that. That's really cool. I like how that was performed and how that was all put together. I think it works really well as well, thematically. This is kind of a cool album. Let's finish it out. Like I said, it's a short one, with Symphonique Number 1, Portrait of a Monarch. Like those deeper strings coming in. Sounds richly aggressive. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Moondog full album reaction, Portrait of a Monarch. This is my least favorite track on the album. Not that it's bad, it just doesn't amount to as much as every other track on here has amounted in that short amount of time, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's kind of a more slightly sporadic rhythmic kind of track in the way that it kind of stabs and jumps and jolts, bum 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 bum, which is kind of cool on one hand. If it built up to something, I would say then I'd probably enjoy it more. But as a shorter track, and that was kind of the majority of it, it just felt kind of like, it's fine. I think it's fine. Not as a whole thing, but perhaps as part of something. Like if this was a movement that expanded into something else, then I could definitely get with it. But as it is, it's just like a 2-minute kind of quick in and out. I did like the part where the deeper strings came in and rang really nice with the resonance. There. That was just heavy. And the movement is almost very progressive as well as it moves through that. But yeah, like I said, not my favorite track, but it's a fine listen, but nothing that's really hits. Not as well as any of the other tracks here on this album. Says obviously it's the final track, written in 1960. The ambition was to capture both the playful side and the strength of Moondog's fictional character, Thor the Nordum, the protagonist of a sound saga or poetic myth he had developed. Okay, it definitely has a power behind it, I'll give it that. It has an action. The central theme is about how the old, personified by a ruthless and clever Emperor of Earth, manages to assume power over the new. Gotcha. While I didn't necessarily get that part in the music, I can definitely hear the personification of, this monarch, this emperor of the earth, and claiming power, because it does have a certain sense of action, like I said, to it. Let's see, looking at some of the other information here, it says the music on the album was composed during the 50s and 60s, rescored for orchestra. Let's see. Few of Moondog's custom-made instruments were used. They had previously been among his more distinctive features. Only his percussion instrument, the trimba, and a new bowed instrument called the huss, from the Norwegian way or word for house were added to the conventional orchestra instruments. So these are probably instruments and things that he had made while he was out playing on the streets and such. Work on Moondog began in May without any rehearsals. Okay, risky, huh? The album was recorded in Main Studio in Earl Church, where he conducted the orchestra. He described the opportunity to conduct the musicians in the studio as one of the biggest thrills of his life. I bet that would have been. I bet that was really euphoric and like just a highlight of his life in general, his musical career. Moondog was also a poet and recited 2 of his epigrams for the album. The first of these couplets is located between the first and second track, and the second opens the 2, or side 2, as we had heard there. I think that this was a really cool album, and I think it's really cool that it also charted pretty well. Let's see, reception overwhelmingly positive when the album first released, like we said. Let me get that chart information. No chart information down here. I mean, we saw a little bit of it at the top here. I just thought there'd be a little bit more. Stamping Ground and Theme were the singles. Excellent singles to be chosen, I would say. They definitely work really well. Yeah, favorite tracks on the album easily is Symphonique number 6 and then Minisim. I thought that these were my 2 favorites. Every track on here is well worth listening to. I don't love Symphonique number 1, but it's not like, it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. It's not like annoying. It's not like a bad song. I just wish that it amounted to more for what it does. But otherwise, I think that's a very, very small, minuscule kind of complaint, if anything. Not even barely worth mentioning. But this was a really cool album to listen to. And a quick one. So I'm on Spotify right now. Is his next album, Moondog 2, is that kind of along the same line, like a short kind of track? I'm looking at it right now. It's longer by 6 minutes. I'm sorry. No. It's longer, actually. His next album. Let me look at it on Wikipedia here so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Here, you can pop up here while I'm going around. Okay, 42 minutes long, and most of the tracks are like a minute. Like, look, like this seems like you would just listen to this whole thing at once. In that case, maybe even side 2 with the way it is. Oh, and he's him, maybe his wife, his sister, someone else is doing vocals and percussion with him here. Interesting. Or his daughter as vocalist. Moondog 2 contains vocal compositions in canons, rounds, and madrigals. Interesting. I'd be curious to hear how they sound in here. I don't know. But let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments down below. Hope that you guys enjoyed the album listen alongside with me. Thank you so much for being here and for enjoying the music with me. Hopefully it was something that you guys enjoyed, at least in some capacity. Maybe you got something out of it. And if anything, maybe you learned something out of it as well. Herb, thank you again for the support as well. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your day, your morning, your afternoon, your night, whichever comes first. And thank you again for being here. Have a wonderful one. I will talk to you later. Bye.